There is a pattern inside you that you have never seen, yet it has been writing your life story since childhood. You break up with one partner. Months later, you meet someone new. Somehow, they become the same person. You leave one job swearing it will be different. 2 years pass. The same complaints return. You promise yourself this time will be different, and somehow it never is. Carl Jung had a name for this. He called it the unconscious pattern. Most people believe they make decisions freely. They believe each choice is new. They believe they are learning. But Jung discovered something uncomfortable about the human mind. We do not choose most of our lives. We repeat them. The unconscious has its own scripts, and those scripts run quietly underneath every decision you make. You think you are choosing a partner. Your unconscious is matching a familiar feeling. You think you are choosing a career. Your unconscious is recreating a childhood dynamic. You think you are choosing a fight. Your unconscious is finishing one that started decades ago. This is not weakness. This is how the human psyche is built. Jung observed this in his patients for over 40 years. The same wounds, the same partners, the same self-sabotage. He noticed something strange. The unconscious does not want to harm you. It wants to be seen. It keeps recreating the original pattern, hoping that this time you will finally notice it. But Jung discovered something even more uncomfortable about this loop. You cannot stop a pattern you cannot see. And the unconscious is excellent at staying hidden. It dresses up the same wound in new clothes. A controlling parent becomes a controlling boss. A distant lover becomes a distant friend. The face changes. The feeling does not. This is what Jung called repetition compulsion, the psyche returning to the same scene, hoping this time you will rewrite it. Picture this. You walk into a new relationship. Everything feels different. The person seems healthy. 6 months in, a familiar tension arrives. You recognize this feeling. You have felt it before. Within a year, you are living a version of your last heartbreak. You ask yourself how this happened again. The Jungians have a name for what just happened. They call it the constellation of the complex. A complex is a cluster of feelings, memories, and reactions tied to one original wound. It lives in your unconscious. When the right trigger arrives, the complex activates, and you are no longer choosing. You are being chosen. This is the part most modern therapy never addresses. The unconscious has its own intelligence, and it is not always working for you. Jung believed every repeating pattern is the unconscious knocking on the door. It wants to deliver a message. The message is always the same. There is something inside you that you have not yet faced. Until you face it, the pattern will continue, not as punishment, as invitation. Stay with me here. This next part will explain something about yourself you have never been able to articulate. The wound at the center of your pattern was formed long before you had language. It was felt, not spoken. A child does not analyze their parents. A child absorbs them. The nervous system records everything. If love came with conditions, you learned love must be earned. That belief became invisible architecture. If safety came with silence, you learned to disappear to stay loved. That strategy still runs. If attention came with chaos, you learned chaos meant connection. Now peace feels boring. These early imprints become the template. The unconscious uses this template to recognize home. The tragedy is that home feels familiar even when it hurts. Familiar reads as safe to the nervous system. So you keep choosing the familiar pain over the unfamiliar peace, not because you want to suffer, but because peace to a wounded psyche feels suspicious, even threatening, like a trick. This is why people leave loving partners and return to chaotic ones. The unconscious is voting. Carl Jung wrote in his Red Book about exactly this experience. He called it the descent into the underworld of the self. He believed that until a person meets their own unconscious patterns, they remain a passenger in their own life. The driver is the wound, and the wound has a destination. It is the same destination every time. So how do you recognize your own unconscious pattern? Jung gave us several clues. First sign, you feel a strange familiarity in painful situations, like you have been here before. Second sign, you attract similar people across different stages of your life. The faces change, the dynamic does not. Third sign, you sabotage yourself just before something good can fully arrive, almost like clockwork. Fourth sign, you feel most alive during conflict and most uneasy during calm. Calm feels like waiting. Fifth sign, you have a recurring complaint about life. The same sentence has lived in your mouth for years. If 3 or more of these signs describe you, your unconscious pattern is fully active. It is running your life. Comment below. Drop one word that names the pattern you keep repeating. Just one word. Naming it begins to weaken its grip. The unconscious loses power the moment it is seen. Now return with me to the deeper work. Recognition is only the first step. Because once you see the pattern, a strange resistance arises. You will want to look away. This is the unconscious protecting itself. It has run your life this long because it had a job to do. Jung was clear about this. The pattern was once a survival strategy. It kept the child alive. The wound responded the only way it could, with a behavior, with a belief, with a story. That story served you once. As an adult, the same story imprisons you. Integration is not killing the pattern, it is thanking it and updating it. You speak to the part of you that learned to please everyone. You tell it the danger is gone. You speak to the part of you that learned to disappear. You tell it visibility is now safe. You speak to the part of you that learned to fight first. You tell it peace will not abandon you. This is what Jung meant by individuation, becoming the integrated whole of all your parts. Not erasing the wounded child, welcoming the wounded child into the adult you are becoming. The pattern softens the moment it feels witnessed. It has been waiting your whole life for this. What I am about to share next is a practice Jung used with his patients that takes only 10 minutes per day. Tonight, take a single sheet of paper, write at the top one question, where have I been here before? Then list every situation in your life that feels like a repeat. Relationships, jobs, friendships, conflicts. Look at the list. Beneath the different surfaces, find the same feeling. Name that feeling in one word. That feeling is the doorway. That feeling is your unconscious pattern speaking in its native language. For the next 7 nights, return to the page. Add one sentence. The first time I felt this was when. Do not force the memory. Let it arrive. The psyche has been waiting to be asked this question. When the original scene appears, do not relive it. Simply witness it. From your adult self, place a hand on your chest. Speak to the younger version of you. Tell them you are here now. This is not affirmation. This is integration. You are reuniting with the part of you that was left behind. Something changes when you do this work consistently. The pattern stops needing to repeat. Because the unconscious only repeats what has not been seen. Once seen, it can rest. You will notice the same triggers arrive, but your reaction begins to shift. You pause where you used to react. You feel the old pull toward the familiar pain, and for the first time, you choose differently. This is freedom, not the absence of the pattern, the ability to no longer be controlled by it. Jung believed this is the work of the second half of life, the ending of repetition, the beginning of choice. If you have been repeating the same mistakes, you are not broken. You are encountering the part of yourself Jung called the shadow pattern. It has been writing your life from underneath. Now you have the chance to take the pen back. The same pattern that has hurt you contains the medicine. The wound is also the doorway. What you resist persists. What you face transforms. What you integrate becomes power. This is the Jungian way. If this video showed you something about yourself, subscribe to the Archetype Code. The work of meeting yourself begins here. And tonight, ask yourself one final question. What pattern in my life is asking to be seen? You already know the answer. You have known your whole life. It is time to listen.